maybe you guys know, maybe you guys know some of the miracles that Jesus did. Maybe you don't. But I want to know, what's your favorite? What's the most interesting miracle? Like, man, that's the one I want to be a part of. That's the one I would want to see or experiment. Who has an idea of one?
When God divided the food.
Ah, there you are.
Mister, the miracle I want to see is for the blind man.
The blind man. Emily said about when God divided the waters. Let's think about with Jesus though. When Jesus was walking on earth, what was the miracle you would want to see? What do you think?
When he heals lepers.
When he healed lepers and the blind men. Okay, today we're going to talk about my favorite, what I would want to do. My personal miracle, my personal favorite was when Jesus walked on water. That's the one I would want to participate in. That's the one I would want to do because I think that's super cool, right? So today we're going to read about that when Jesus walked on water. But it wasn't just Jesus who walked on water. Who else walked on water with Jesus?
Peter.
Peter, very good.
I don't know who God told that work with him.
Yeah, Peter, good job.
He go down.
Mister, the story of the man that you said that walk on water, that they were in like a storm, but it was a lot of air, and then God and people were scared, and then God was walking by the water, and then he said to Peter to don't be afraid and walk with him.
Mm-hmm. Good job. All right, it's kind of like that. It's a little different, but that's basically what happened. Good job, Emily. Good job, John Carlos. All right, let's read this. This is in Matthew 14, verse 22. It says, immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake while he sent the people home. Okay, let's go back a little bit. What just happened? We can see that he just fed 5,000 people. So what we just read about, that just took place. And so now they're going to the other side of the lake again. But he's going to do something a little different. He needs time by himself. So he sends the people home. After sending them home, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. All right, so it got dark while he was there. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost." Who's ever thought that they've heard a ghost? All of a sudden, you're in your house, and it's dark, and you hear of the door, and you thought, nope, that's a ghost. That's a ghost. Or you used to start praying, just like, God, did I just tell you how much I love you right now and how much I need you right now? I'm a little afraid right now.
So sometimes, well, I think that always my doors close and open by themselves.
Yeah. Most of the time, it's just the wind. There's no reason to be afraid. All right, let's read verse 27. But Jesus spoke to them at once. Don't be afraid, he said. Take courage, I am here. Then Peter called to him, Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water. So Jesus said, yes, come. So Peter went over to the side of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. Save me, Lord, he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. You have so little faith, Jesus said. Why did you doubt me? Sorry. Why did you doubt me? When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples worshipped him. You really are the Son of God, they exclaimed. After they had crossed the lake, they landed at Gennesaret. Actually, we'll stop there. We don't need to know about what he did there because people recognize him. And they wanted to touch him and stuff like that because they were going to get healed. Okay, but let's talk about this again. All right, so immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake while he sent the people home. Okay, so It's time for them to be by themselves. And so Jesus needs to be alone. After sending him home, he went by the hills, up into the hills by himself to pray. Okay, what can we learn from that? That he sent the people home and he went to pray by himself. It's that going to church is very important. Doing things for God is very important. But one of the most important things we need to have is our time alone with God. Because if we don't have our time alone with God, we can't do things for other people. We can't do things at our church. We're filled up so we can fill up others. Okay? And so it's very important that we spend time with God. So if Jesus is going to go by himself to pray, we also need to spend some time alone to go pray. All right. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from the land, for a strong wind had risen and they were fighting heavy waves. So they're terrified. I would be terrified. Have you guys ever been on a boat before? Henry, you've been on a boat before? Yeah. Have you ever
I have.
Emily, you have?
Yeah, I also.
Yes.
Carlos, you have? Have you ever been on a boat with a lot of waves and it was kind of like rocking, a little scary?
No.
Okay.
Yes, and my mom fell with my brother.
What? That's terrifying. Now
Yes.
imagine it's doing that, but it's 3 o'clock in the morning, all right? It says about 3 o'clock in the morning. That's when this is happening. You can't see, it's dark, and you're just shaking, and it's terrifying. I'm pretty sure you can't see the moon because the clouds are covering because of the storm. Or maybe there was the moon. It doesn't say there was a storm. It just said a heavy wind, strong, heavy waves, a strong wind. But imagine how you would feel. You can't really see, it's dark. You don't know where land is at. You're just kind of going for it. And you're fighting heavy waves and you're shaking and everything. And then all of a sudden you see somebody walking on water. I've never seen anyone walking on water. But if I saw somebody walking on water, let's be honest, I would probably say the same thing as them, right? That's a ghost. What would you say? What would you say? Would you say the same thing?
No.
No. Sophia, what would you say?
Mr. I will be scared.
I would tell him that I want to try it.
You'd be scared and you want to cry?
No, that I will tell him. I want to try to walk on water.
You want to try to walk on water? Well, let's see. Let's keep reading about it. It says, but Jesus spoke to them at once. Don't be afraid. Who's trying to join right now? Not Sunny. You're joining way too late. Jesus spoke to them at once. Don't be afraid. He said, take courage. I'm here. Okay, so once you hear the voice of Jesus, you're like, oh, it's Jesus. Okay. Was Jesus just walking on water? Like, that would get my attention. I don't know about you. I would be like, whoa, Jesus is walking on water? And then I'd probably do it. Emily had said, okay. Then Peter called to him, Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water. Okay, let's learn something here. Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you. Why didn't Peter just get out of the water, get out of the boat and start walking on water? Who knows why?
About what?
Why didn't Peter just get out of the boat and start walking on water towards Jesus?
Because he was scared.
Could be. Why else?
Faith. Faith.
But what did he wait for?
He waited for people to look.
No, he waited for someone to tell him to do it. He waited for Jesus to give the instructions. And once Jesus gave the instructions, that's when he did it. But it wasn't until he gave the instructions did he do it. And so that's what we can learn. Unless God tells us to do it, we shouldn't have to do it. We shouldn't try. For example, that would be kind of like testing God, Unless Jesus says do it, then we should do it. For example, I'm not going to go out onto the water and try walking on water right now unless Jesus told me to do it. So one thing we can learn is that unless Jesus tells us to do it, don't do it. Okay? Don't do it. A lot of people want to do good things. That's okay. You want to sell all your stuff and give it to Jesus. That's okay. But unless Jesus tells us to do it, we don't have to do it. should learn to be obedient. But here's another thing. Peter wanted to be with Jesus. So Peter, in his mind, thought it would be better to be with Jesus in the middle of a storm, in the middle of these waves, in the middle of the night, than to be in the boat where it's safe with others. So we're going to go through some hard things in life. Things are going to get hard. It's going to get scary. We're not fully going to understand what's going to go on, but it is better to be with Jesus than to be with others and without Jesus. I would rather be with Jesus. For example, me, I have never been to Honduras before. I had never met the people who were there. I had no idea where I was going, but I just knew Jesus told me, go to Honduras. And I knew it was better to be with Jesus in Honduras than to be by myself or without Jesus in Colorado. It's better to be where Jesus called me to be than to be without him. And look what happened. I get to meet some of these amazing students, my favorites ever. And I get to be their teacher. So I think it was a pretty good deal to follow Jesus. I'm happy. All right, so Jesus says, yes, come. And so Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on water toward Jesus. Okay, everyone looks at Peter and thinks, oh, he had no faith. He had no faith. He didn't walk on water. Oh, he sank and all this stuff. But what did he do? Peter walked on water. How many other disciples walked on water? No one. No one. Good job, John Carlos. Nobody else walked on water. It was only Peter. And so take those steps of faith to trust Jesus. So the only way we're going to be able to do miracles and do these things if we trust God enough and to try. For example, who's ever seen a blind person healed? Has anyone seen a blind person healed?
Not seen, but heard of Jesus doing it.
You've heard? No, I'm talking about here now.
No.
Have you ever seen a blind person healed?
No.
John Carlos, have you? No? Who wants to pray and see a blind person healed?
Me?
I do. I've prayed for blind people before, and they didn't get healed, but I want to see them healed. What do I have to do to see blind people healed? Pray for them. I'm not going to see blind people healed unless I'm praying for them, unless I'm trusting Jesus is going to heal them, having faith. So we're not going to do these miracles unless we start trying to do these miracles. We're not going to see these miracles happen in our lives unless we start trying.
I cannot hear you.
What did you say? All right, we'll keep going. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified. It began to sink. Save me, Lord, he shouted. Okay, he gets out of the boat and he's walking on water. Who is he looking at? Where's his focus when he gets out of the boat? Where is his focus when he gets out of the boat? Who knows? Who can tell me? Monse? Who is he looking at? Who is Peter looking at when he gets out of the boat and starts walking on water?
Peter.
I can't hear you, Monse. Turn on your mic.
Looking at Jesus.
Looking at Jesus. John Carlos, what does he start to look at that distracts him?
The disciple that was with them.
No, he's looking at his disciples. Read verse 30.
Sorry, but when he saw the strong wind and the wave, he was terrified and began to sink.
And began to think. So he started looking at the wind and the waves. Let's take that and apply it to our own lives. When we have a problem, our problem can represent the wind and the waves. You know, we might be going through a really hard time. But us going through that problem could be like Peter walking on water. We have to focus on Jesus. And stay focused. Keep praying, keep believing, keep trusting. For example, this pandemic. What happens when you start looking at how many cases there are and what's going on? Do you get afraid?
No, because I don't listen them.
Yeah, but when you look at, I mean, I did it. I would start looking at how many cases are happening, people who are dying, people who are getting sick, and I would get a little bit afraid. And then I'd say, no, 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 no. I'm going to focus on Jesus. So right now, I'm just going to look at Jesus and trust Jesus. He's our healer. He's our protector. If I get sick, I can trust in Jesus. He's going to provide for me. He's going to take care of me. My focus is on Jesus. I'm not looking anywhere else. I'm not looking at this or that or the other. I'm just focusing on Jesus. And that's how we should live our life, focused on Jesus. Because what happens when we focus off Jesus? What happened to Peter when he took his eyes off of Jesus? He sank. So we need to focus on Jesus. And Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. You have so little faith, Jesus said. Why did you doubt me? So what made him start to fall into the water?
Because
Got it?
what was the question, mister?
Why did Peter start to sink into the water?
Because he doubted Jesus.
So he doubted Jesus, but he started to lose his focus. He started to look at the wind and the waves and not at Jesus. Okay?
Mister,
Yes.
Jesus is the humble people.
Jesus did seek humble people. We'll have to learn. But Jesus seeks humble because God, it says, the Bible says God detests the proud, but exalts the humble. So he's going to reject those who are prideful and think they're the best, but he's going to help and lift up those who depend on him. And so he depended on Jesus in that moment. Save me, Lord, he shouted. The only hope could come from Jesus. Okay? Give me 1 second. So that is the story of Jesus walking on water. And we've learned that because of, let me see if this is it. Because of Peter's faith and his focus, he was able to walk on water. But when he started to lose focus, when he started to get distracted by the problems, he started to sink. And then he had even more problems. So it is better for us to focus on Jesus than it would be for us to try to do things on our own. And it's better to be in the middle of the storm with Jesus than it to be the safety of a boat with others. True salvation comes from who?
From God.
From Jesus. All right. I'm opening up this, sorry, my computer's being a little slow, but I'm opening up this page for the questions. And then, okay. Here are the questions I want you to write down right now. There we go. There you are.